Hi, my name is Devina. Welcome to Ask the Oracle channel. I'm so grateful that you decided to join me if you're new. And if you're returning, welcome back. Today, I have a discussion that came to me. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. And I wanted to also, I had a video that I took down because some of it could be taken wrong. And I wasn't trying to demonize one particular individual. Whenever I posted that video, I do have a way of getting a little off topic sometimes, so I'll try to stick to what I have written down today. So if you saw that video regarding the monitor spirits, just know those things are real, and I'll end up going into that in a different, maybe just one day write about that or discuss that with you and what it did to me and how I understand how those things work. But today we're not going to go into the World Economic Forum and all of that and who I think the players are in, trying to influence governments and selfish agendas and things like that. But what we're going to talk about today, friends, is we're going to talk about Armageddon. Yes, I know it is a topic. It's been talked about and talked about and talked about. But I recently listened to one of the lectures from Manly P. Hall on Armageddon. And it was really interesting because I've been, I pick up these things as well as an intuitive and about corruption and how it's funny because that's the same thing. I view the same thing. So, it's interesting that there are others who understand these balance that we have to keep. We have this delicate balance here on planet Earth of duality. There's this lightness, there's this love, light, beauty, all the good stuff. And then you've got over here, you've got this world of duality that's just so dark. And darkness, not in a good way. We're talking about malevolent darkness. And so it's just like, where are you in this? You have to learn to balance and find peace in the chaos. It's really interesting because Spirit's always talking to me in different ways, okay? And that's the way Spirit works, is it's always sending us messages, whether we understand what it's telling us. That's another thing, right? You have to always decipher, what is that signal? What does that mean for you? And sometimes we get it wrong. We don't always get it right. If we're in a fear mode, then we may not get the message, okay? So yesterday I was driving and it was interesting how it works. So I have this thing with birds and messengers. And so I'm driving along and all of a sudden, I swear, it just appeared out of nowhere. It didn't fly across, because I saw one do that later where it flew across the sky. This bird, this white bird, just popped out of the sky above my car as I was driving. And there was a lot of traffic, and it was just, I was leaving, I was going back home. I had like a 3-4 hour drive ahead of me. And all of a sudden, this white winged bird, and the way that it just like opened up in the sky, I'm like, whoa, that's magical. It like just appeared, a white seagull. Yes, seagulls are everywhere, right? But it was just the way that it was there. It didn't fly across. It was just right, popped up in my view. And the message, so then all of a sudden, I saw that as I was seeing smoke up ahead. I was seeing smoke, like a car was on fire and it was smoking. And then so it was like, and there's so much traffic because, it's the holidays. And so I see that fire, so I'm like, what lane do I get in? So I was actually in a good lane. I was able to get past it. And then as I passed that chaotic, these people are on their phone. They had just, a car's on fire and they're stopped in the middle of the road. And then next thing I know, there's this lady over here broke down in her car and she's on the phone. And there's just like, and it was a little bit of chaos. I won't deny that. I was like, okay, this is a little weird for me just to leave this, leaving this town, and I've got this whole drive ahead of me. So the bird, what it represented for me at that moment was right before the chaos, I had this, everything's going to be okay. Just trust, this peace, finding peace in the chaos. That is our goal here, guys. When I tell you these things that I am aware of, it isn't to put you in fear mode and depression and sadness, because we can definitely process things that way. That's the easy way, is to say, wow, what do we do now that we're aware of these things we didn't know? And you know what? My video that I did take down, because I felt that it may not be the way I said things, may not come out right. And I have to be careful with that, right? I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone. I'm not trying to attack anybody. And, you know, I'm just wanting to share information, because I believe the more people that are aware and they know what's happening, then we're in a better position. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. It is. Then you will not be led astray into trusting in agendas that don't have your highest outcome, the highest outcome for you. You don't want to trust agendas that may appear like it's to help you, but it's actually trapping and enslaving and taking away freedoms. We don't ever want to be there. We don't want to believe that that's even possible. But in the world of duality, we have to face reality, right? Reality versus imaginary. And that's where your intuition's going to go and take you, and you need to really learn how to open up that channel. But that's for another day, because I'm trying to bring awareness to this world of duality. This is going to talk about personal Armageddon, and how in history, it's always been there. It's just where we are. We remember, you look back in history, and there's always been wars. There's always been this force of light and this force of dark, and they've always, clashed, and there's always been battles. And so what I'm talking about isn't new, but what it is on a personal level, as within, so without. So what causes these battles here is the ego. It is individuals that put themselves above the common good of everyone else. And so what happens sometimes is, because these individuals get so much power, is that they not only destroy themselves, but they also destroy the common good of everyone else. What we have to do, you and I as a collective, is we have to solve these problems, these personal problems, and stand in our integrity, or else we become corrupt and we fail. We fall into ruin. To become corrupt is to agree and go along with a selfish agenda. Perhaps you're getting this check, you're a politician, and you're getting a check for $2 million. I'm just, this is just a hypothetical. From a deity, I want to say deity, but I meant to say corporation, so I don't know where that comes into. Maybe that's their god, is the money, right? And so this corporation is saying, okay, I need you to protect us, my agenda. I'm going to pay you $2 million to write this into legislation. I'm speaking of America, okay, because I'm sure other governments have corruption as well, but this is what I know because I live over here in the Western world. And you're going to protect me. So basically that's what's going on, is we don't have, the human beings within a country do not have any power, because we have corruption on every level of government at this time in human history. And so when we look at history, as I mentioned, it's a series of events that are all made up of the same components. There's nothing new under the sun. So it's not like it's a special place. We're in a different time in history. Yes, we have technology. We are connected. We are connected by wireless internet now. Thank God we have the internet, because we can talk to somebody over across the world and the planet and connect to our collective soul family. So it's beautiful, right? It's so much greatness. There's light and there's dark, and everything can be used for good or ill. It just depends on the personal integrity of you, the individual that's using it. As we look at history, the most advanced civilizations will fall. An empire will fall when corruption takes over. The fall of Rome, it happened to be because of corruption. Every choice, everything we do has a consequence. It's just a natural universal law, right? So even Rome fell because of corruption. But I won't go into all that. If you want to read about it, that's something you can do on your own. Rome was an advanced civilization. They had like this amazing way of building structures, the waterways, and they even had toilets and things that were more modern, than what past civilizations had, So anyway, so even Rome, a great empire, fell because of this corruption. And so that's what happens, is if corruption is not kept in check, if there's no accountability, an empire, a great nation will fall and destroy itself. So as I was mentioning, we have this amazing technology that can serve for informational purposes, connections, and self-gratification. Depending on how you want to use it, you can get instant gratification from these apps that give you lots of dopamine and all this good stuff, games and stuff like that, and you win prizes and things like that. So whatever. Or for some people, depending, on their addictions, they can get other gratifications out of the technology we have. So it just depends on where a person is, right? And planet Earth is an amazing place, as I mentioned, with duality, extremes. And for you and I, it's all about finding peace and balance within. And that's a challenge. I have not mastered that. I am still working on finding my peace within the chaos that could be around me. And as I mentioned yesterday's little signal from the divine, it was about, like, the chaos hadn't happened yet. There's a lot of traffic. I'm not used to traffic. I like quiet. And of course I can do it. I've lived in Dallas, Fort Worth, where there's lots of traffic for years. So it's not like I don't know how to drive in traffic. Just a really special message is that was my thing, was everything's going to be okay. So I didn't panic when I got past the car that was about to probably burst into flames. I don't know. There was like smoke coming out and it was huge, and there's poor people are in this car. And I'm thinking, wow, I don't know if I'd want to sit in that car. It looks like it's going to catch on fire. But then they were in the middle and there's like 4 or 5 lanes. And I'm like thinking to myself, where do you go? Maybe sitting inside, they were on their phone calling, emergency fire or whatever. So I didn't get riled up because I saw the chaos. I did. I was at peace. I was like, okay, so peace, peace, peace. That's the challenge from you and I, me, whoever's watching this, everybody really, because that's just what it is. We have to learn to find the peace in the chaos. So every human tragedy has been brought about by human selfishness. Think about that for a moment. Every tragedy on earth that was brought about by humans was a result of the ego and their own selfish desires. So this is where, as I mentioned, corruption can destroy an entire nation. And it's always the same. We're always faced with the same thing. Integrity or fail. We have to choose personal integrity or we fail. And it's not always like a one-time thing. You get one choice and that's it. But sometimes it is. Sometimes you get one chance and that's it. So at that time, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to redeem yourself later on. You may or may not get a chance in this lifetime to redeem yourself. It may have to be another lifetime where you're born into a karmic situation of suffering and pain to get over all of that and learn the lesson. If one isn't able to learn it in the one lifetime they're in at the moment, they will learn it eventually. So this is where it's extremely important that justice is honored and applied, okay? Now, we're not talking about in corrupt justices, okay? Because the corrupt justices will have to face the failure that they cause. The cause and effect is a universal law. So if a justice is corrupt, they will fail, and they can bring down a nation based on their decision. But what happens in every situation is the universal law will step in, and nature will balance the books. It will wipe out. If the human beings cannot bring this balance of integrity into their dealings, and they continue to operate in a corrupt system or mind or dealings with what they're involved in, okay, whatever level they're involved in, okay, it's not like just one big corporation, one big government. There's individuals that make up the groups. So universal law is going to make sure that the books are balanced for good or for ill. So an unjust society will fail. So it's necessary, as I said, we have to hold individuals and groups accountable. Punishment is necessary. So for me, I am into tarot, so I'm aware of the Justice card. And what the Justice card in the tarot deck represents is her sword is a sword of truth. And her sword is shown. She holds the scales that say, I'm not looking at the person, I am just. There's a balancing force here, and I am blind to who you are. It's what you did. Did you do this or did you do that? I'm going to hold you accountable. And the sword represents the fortitude, the virtue, and the ability, temperance, the ability to wield punishment for the deeds, okay? Because it's necessary. Punishment is the natural law of decisions, right? We make a decision, we suffer. So it keeps us from doing it again. Unless we just like self-punishment and want to hurt ourselves all the time, then, I know there is a vibration of sabotage. But we're not talking about so much as sabotage. That goes into spiritual stuff that I'm not ready to talk about, even though I do talk about spiritual stuff too, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the the biblical Armageddon and where we are in the times, where we see ourselves in this day and age, right? In 2023, December. Accountability is the punishment. It's like you punish somebody so that they don't keep doing this thing, so they learn their lessons. Because a person that is not held accountable will destroy himself. And if they're in a position of power, they will also destroy and take down a great nation with them. As within, so without. Internal corruption can destroy civilizations. Truth against the forces of self-gratification. So the prophecies talk about, we've heard about these prophecies for thousands of years. We also know that the prophecy says that after this great battle, so Armageddon, we're going to go back to what Armageddon was whenever it was written in the biblical records. Originally, it was a battle on Mount Megiddo, I believe, near Israel. And it was where the forces of good and the evil gathered and they battled it out and they waged a war. And after this battle of good and evil, the world of duality that we live in, dark and light, occurred, there was the prophecy of peace. The Prince of Peace, the new king. I think it was a new kingdom that was supposed to be established, but I don't know that it required a king to rule, because the days of kings and queens ruling over human beings is no longer necessary. We are sovereign, so we don't really need to follow a king or a queen anymore. And that may be hard for some of you who remember being in a royal family in another life. That may be harder for your ego. We don't need kings and queens. We don't need you anymore. Bless your soul. But we are all able to govern ourselves with the divine, provided we believe that and we wake up that part of ourselves and claim our sovereignty. We don't need governments either. But hey, we're not at that place where a government, we're not at the place yet in human history where humans are able to handle their own selves within their own collective neighborhoods and local government. Everything, we have government everywhere making decisions and taxes and things like that. So right now we're not there, but in the biblical prophecy, peace came after the destruction of the wicked evildoers, the selfish, egotistical, self-gratification doer. Armageddon was supposed to be the war before the great judgment day. And so what I want to say about that is that in history, there were always survivors of every cataclysmic experience on this planet. Okay, maybe the dinosaurs didn't survive, but they left their bones and their remnants for us to see that they were there once upon a time. But humans did survive because this is a place for human beings, as well as amazing beings of animals and life and forms of every kind. If the human beings don't get the checks and balances in order, then nature is going to step in, and the universal law is she, Mother Earth, and Father Sky, and the nature is going to balance everything. Could be an environmental destruction. Armageddon could come about in that way. It could also be wars that cause devastation and kill thousands and thousands of people across the globe or in certain parts of the world. With our technology, we've got bombs now. Bombs. They just lightly think, oh, we could just, destroy everything. That's what I'm saying. Like, we are in a delicate place. We need to be careful who we elect as leaders in these countries, because if they're not coming from a place of integrity, do not vote for them. And how you will know if they're coming from integrity or if they're coming from mind-washed propaganda that they paid for years and years ago is you will know them by their words, you will know them by their actions. Are they peace or are they chaos? Do they divide or do they unite? And that is how you will know. And if you're voting for somebody because you believe, because you're a fan of a very rich millionaire that lives a really cool life that you believe is, oh my God, this person has everything, and they're a fan of this individuals or groups or whoever, and you really need to ask yourself, well, why do I put that person's opinion above truth? This is another thing about truth, guys, is one man's truth is a lie for another, okay? So truth is relative. It's not always easy to determine what is a truth and a lie. And I did start a video on that. I'm kind of new at doing this channel again, starting it up and doing topics like this. So I'm sure you'll see me grow as long as I continue, which I do plan on now to understand what I'm here to do. Don't put someone else's truth above what is discernible in integrity. It's so simple. It's the most simple thing to determine truth from lies is a person and their actions, and intention is everything. So when we put these people above us, we think they're better than us for some reason. I don't know why we do those things, but we choose these leaders who are not in integrity, then they have the ability to destroy us with their decisions of self-gratification and ego mind. So keep that in mind, okay? You are responsible for your decisions, but your decisions will ultimately affect everyone else, not just you, but the world at large. Whoever's in that little bubble that's affected reap the rewards, benefits, or the consequences of that action. It's just natural law. back to Armageddon and the battle of Megiddo and the, prophetic, symbolic battle of good and evil. So Noah and his sons were the survivors of the great flood. And out of Noah's, all the races of mankind came, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and he landed on a mountain and he was in his boat. So what I'm getting at with this story here is that the Noah was a survivor of the flood that destroyed the Nephilim, the great mythical beings that we have in stories that were an ancient race that were mythical. They had supernatural powers and they wanted to conquer and destroy. So they became dark. So maybe they were an offspring race bred from an angelic race that came down and bred with humans. So perhaps they had these magical abilities and they were corrupted. So they were corrupted. They were causing so much harm. They were huge. They weren't like the size of the people before them. They were tall, beautiful, blonde, some of them blonde, redheads, blue, green eyes, white, pale skin, the Aryan race or whatever, some of them, but they bred with every race. So if people think that just white people are special, they need to understand that's not the case. Every race on this planet has a purpose and they're here because they're a human being race. Color is just a variety in the tapestry of life, right? No one is better than another based on skin. But anyways, I'm getting off. I do that. I apologize. So what I want to get back to is Noah and the fact that he's intuition. So he had a divine channel. So when either God or his angel helper, guardian guides said, hey, Noah, this is going to happen. We have to do this. This is a balancing of nature. This is coming. This is like a prophecy. Because so they're seers. People can see things you can go up and you can look down and you can see all these little thoughts forms that can possibly produce a situation. So however Noah tapped in, because he was a child of light, a being of light, however you want to put it. That means he was more good than dark. And so he received the message that you got to build a boat, Noah. There's a flood coming. And it's going to come here at this point. There's this, I just know, I don't know. I can just tell what they told him. And I'm not even going by the book, but I can hear what they're saying to him. They're saying, Noah, this is going to happen. I want to say 10 months. I don't know where that's coming from. Okay, guys, because it could have been longer. It could have been less. However much, it might have been 2 years. I'm not sure. I'm just saying this is going to happen on this such and such day or this time period. And we need you to build this boat because we want you and your family to be safe, because we don't want to see you destroyed. You've got to continue with the humankind races, the children of man. And so you're going to be preserved, Noah, because we need you to do this work. And you can hear us because your divine channel's open. So you're going to know what to do, because we know we need you here. This is your job, Noah. This is what you signed up for. You came here. You were born here. This is who you are, and you need this responsibility. It's scary. Yes, I know, but we trust that you can do this, Noah. And so that's where they were preserved at their Armageddon. Like I said, Armageddon has occurred multiple times in human history. And here we are in another battle between the forces of good and evil. It's always been here. It's always been here. So what are you going to do if you know that you're on a planet that's always been involved in a battle of the light and the dark? Whose side are you going to go? Who or what are you going to choose for yourself? Now, understand, I'm not here to push fear. I want to push knowledge, my understanding. And then, of course, you have your understanding. And, I'm not here to say I'm right and you're wrong. No, that's ego. Ego is always trying to tell people you don't have the right to say anything. That's not true. You have a right to stand in your power. You have a right to claim your space. You, my friend, are just as important as the people who own these companies that are pushing things to do these great things. You don't have, maybe perhaps you don't, maybe you do, have the billions that it's going to take to assist society in different ways and different avenues or whatever, but if you do, you don't, it's okay, because whatever power you have, you were born with that, and that's your gift, that's your skill, and appreciating in it. Don't let anyone try to the word I was going to say was deprecate, but I'm not even sure that's the correct way of saying that word. Depreciate. I don't know. It's funny because sometimes my words just can't come out when I want them to, but don't let anyone make you feel less than just because you're not a millionaire or billionaire. You might be one day, so it just depends, whatever your destiny is, okay? But what I'm saying is that you have power. Your knowledge is power. And when you talk to people and you do it from a place, a heart-centered place, they're going to feel it. They may not agree with you, and that's okay, because the ego is a big one. Ego is probably the biggest obstacle humankind has to get past, is believing things that the ego tells them, whether it's true or it's false. And so I am here to encourage you to realize that there is a way. We each individual have a say. We don't have to be destroyed in a battle that's going on around us. We can stand up in our collective and join our collective and do what it is we came here to do, and find peace within the chaos. Our daily life, our practices, I'm working on that myself. It's a constant. As long as we're in a human body, we have to learn to balance our bodies, our physicality, and hold more light for the collective as well, and for ourselves, so we don't get down, excuse me. It's cold, it's winter here, and I have allergies. So that we don't get bogged down by the chaos. Just trust in the divine plan. There is a divine plan. And if you are to be somebody who is a survivor, you will know what to do. What we must all do is clear our mind programming, the programming that has been handed to us via media, via upbringing, familiar family programming, any of those kinds of programming that makes us feel less than our powerful divine selves. We have to clear that out. And the way that you do that is through your intention of. And you also have to start new practices. And this might not be easy for you at first, because it requires releasing and letting go of what your current habits might be. And so what that looks like, for instance, I heard you have to clear the interference, the mind program interferences, the belief systems that may not be true and may not be good for you to believe in, and may be causing more harm than good. So for instance, for me, I'm just going to give you an example of what I did. I did this years ago. I stopped watching media programs. And there's a reason, and I've mentioned this before, so some of you may have already heard this, but for those who haven't heard this story, I'll just tell you right now. I used to watch TV a lot, but it wasn't necessarily me, because I prefer quiet. I like nature sounds, the wind in the trees, and I don't like any noise. I like silence, like so silent that it's like you can hear your breath, silence. And that's when, anyways, I like it that way. But I know that a lot of humans love to turn the television on just for the sound, and makes them, if they're lonely, they have this thing playing in the back, so they're not so lonely anymore. Some people will turn it on before bed. Some people it's their habits. And so what I've discovered myself was that these noises is interference with your own thought processes and your own mind, and your spirit helpers and guardians, ancestors and guides have a harder time speaking to your soul when you have all this interference going. And no, I'm not talking about music. Music in itself is the most healing thing. And it's wonderful to dance and, just let your body flow and hear music. Music's amazing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about interference. I'm talking about words, spells, words in the background that may not be good for you. And let me explain to you where I got this. So years ago, when I discovered that we were being programmed by TV, I mentioned that in the story that I just deleted off of there because I think I'll go into that another way. I just want to make sure the information is clear and concise and it can't be confused with any other stuff. So I want to make sure that if I put material out, that I am clarifying in a way that, I'm not trying to produce hate, because I don't ever want to do that. So that's why I got rid of that one. As I was talking about some people and I named them, and then I thought, oh no, maybe that's wrong. I was just using them as an example, but maybe that was wrong, and I wasn't trying to make that person out to be a terrible person, although they might be. We don't know. We don't know for sure. But anyways, okay, so let me go back. What I was going to tell you is one day we were watching a program, and I loved this program at the time. I thought it was a good program. It was called Pawn Stars, and I'm not sure what channel this Pawn Stars was on. But all of a sudden, we're watching this, and we hear sirens in the background. That was like a weird, like a tone. It was a tone put into this television program. And it was so loud. I was in the mountains in Colorado, lived up on a hill. And it was like crazy loud. And we're like, it wasn't just me, I was with somebody, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I was like, where's the sirens going off from? And we just jumped up and we started looking outside. We opened the door and we were like, where's the sirens? It was on the TV. It was on the television. So I said, wait a minute, let me just pause the TV, because I paused the TV. And when I paused the television, the sound went quiet. There was no sirens anywhere. And so what I realized is that there are these signals playing on your television. The television is a program. And let's just go back to the psychology of what is a siren. A siren is usually fear. It's something that happens when there's chaos, when somebody's car is on fire, when somebody's house is on fire, when there's a car accident, when somebody's got guns, when somebody's injuring. It's chaos. Sirens invoke fear programming. And so what I realized is that no matter how innocent the program, the show, the fun shows we watch, there's something going on with signals behind this programming. And I understand now too, and I did mention this a little bit in that video, and a lot of people don't want to believe in any conspiracy theories because they think they're all bullshit. And some of them are. It's about discernment. You have to do your research to determine what's true and what's not true. Because I'm not here to instill fear. I don't want to do that. But I want people to be aware. And so the interference is, I feel it's important for those of you listening to this that were drawn to this video, is to find out how much time you spend on programs that are controlled by Koch. Is it the Koch brothers? Is it, what other millionaire, billionaire? All of the, most of television, there are some news outlets that are not controlled. Independent media, I believe. There's independent media that's not controlled by certain entities that want to control your mind so they can continue to do their thing and you get away with it. But there are corporations that own the media that also are taking away, clean water and air. And they're the ones who are into this gratification, self-gratification at the expense of others. And as I mentioned, it's up to us to determine who and what they are. And, when we realize that they're not for our greater good, then we need to boycott them. Boycott is a word that was used a long time ago in saying, hey, we're not going to put our dollars, our money, our time and invest in your products. And basically, that's where our power comes from. It's saying, no, I'm not going to let you program my mind, my sovereignty. My mind is so powerful, and no, you're not allowed to tell me what to do. If it goes against, the greater good, my own good, I'm not going to agree with you, sir, Mr., Mrs., whoever they are, okay? So that's why I'm telling you this story. And so I want you to do with it what you will. And I just want to thank you again. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for the new subscribers. And I just want to say blessings to you, my friend. We are more powerful than we know, and knowledge is power. And have a wonderful rest of your day.